Hello YouTube and welcome to a new video. Today I thought of myself, why not go back to the basics, right? And I'm right now on leechess.org, where I will try to do some of these fundamental basic tactical puzzles as well as mating patterns. And we will also go through a couple of other things. But alright, let's first check out some checkmates. So for those who are new to chess, you should know how to checkmate, especially with a queen, a rook and two bishops. But other than that, there are a lot of different mating patterns. So we're going to go through some of them right now on Lichess, and let's look at piece checkmates 1. So right now, as you can see in the top right corner here, there is a mate in 3. And how do the computer know that? Well, it can count how many moves it takes for white to actually finish off black's king. So let's say that we play this move first, check. Then what can black really do? Black can go up the board or down the board. But as a matter of fact, we can play this check. And now you see there's mate in 2. That means that we did a correct move. And the reason for me showing you this is basically because there are a lot of variations here. For instance, if the king went here instead, then white would have had played queen to g7 check. The king could go down to either one of these squares, and then rook to h8 would be mate. But now in this case, it's a bit more difficult, because right now, if you play this, then the king drops down, and there's not a mate in 2. So where is the mate in 2, right? We can look at this move first, check. Now, after that move, there's only 2 other possibilities. There's only one possibility, sorry, for black, and that's going here. But what then? I don't have a mate in 1 there. So we need to figure something else out. So king to c5, and it's not necessary to actually mate in 2 moves. I'm just doing this to try to figure these out myself and helping you guys realize what the mate is. But also I'm curious about this myself. So the king could come over, but then this would happen. What then? Because again, we don't have a checkmate in 2. But is there another foreseeing way of dealing with this? We could also look at this. The king goes up, as I said. So check, king is here, and this is not mate. So what do we do? Well, we have to stop black from gaining any access to any squares, and then force him to a square which mates in the next move. That's the thing. So pause the video now if you want to solve this. And I'm going to give you guys 2 more seconds to pause it if you haven't done it already, and find the mate in 2. Alright, so the move is this. Because you're forcing the king over here. He doesn't. We don't allow him anything on these squares, and we force him to go over because our queen is guarding b5. So now this is checkmate. All right. So now it says that is a mate in 4, and we're going to try to deal with that. So if we check here, then black would certainly try to come over. Then we go here, check. Then the king can go over here again, and then there's mate with our rook down there. But what if after this check the king goes here, and we give another check, and the king goes here? Well, that's why it says a mate in 4 and not 3, because then we switch sides with our rooks. That's the 3rd move, and after the king moves again, then we have rook to g8 mate. Alright, let's do it. Alright, so he goes to the other side. That's a fair point. So again, we have to calculate what happens after these moves, because I didn't calculate this line. I was only calculating if we went up the board, not down, as we see the king goes to c5. So, let's see. Can you find a mate in 3? I'm going to give you 10 seconds, and hopefully I will find it within that time myself. Okay, so have you figured it out yet? Me neither. I'm kind of curious about this move. Kind of curious, because then you're forcing the king to either this square or this square. But I don't see the absolution here. You could also go here, forcing him to b4. Then check. Then the king would step back onto c5. And then going here, the king would go over, and then that's mate. But that's 4 moves. That's 4 moves. So what if I do this now and the king goes here? Well, then I figured I had this move, rook to c1. So if here and the king goes here, then I have rook to c1. That forces the king over. Then this is mate. That's a mate in 3. Do you have any more of those? So after this move, and the king steps here instead. Well, I do believe we have this move then. And since the king can no longer go here, he has to go down, and then this is mate. Alright, let's do it. Okay, so what did I say? Rook to a5, and that's a mate. Notice how the king and the 2 rooks work really well together there. Now this should be a mate in 5. Okay, so that's going to be tough. So one thing I would like to do is play queen to d4. Another thing would do simply to play this move, queen to a5, cutting the king off and then bring my king closer. I find that much easier than actually using the bishop. But for the sake of this puzzle, we're going to try to do it just with the queen and the bishop. Alright. So, what do we play? I think queen to f6 looks really good. Queen f6 here. It forces the king somewhere, right? And if the king steps here, I believe we have this move. Then it forces the king here. The only problem is he has a lot of other options. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Yes, he goes down there. So I didn't calculate in this position how many moves that took to mate, but it's it's really difficult to see where the king will go, right? And it will take a huge amount of time if I do it. So I'm just going to go with the flow. There's no failing this if I make it in more moves than there is the 4 moves that is left right now. But okay, I want to try it anyways. I'm playing this move, this move right here. I'm kind of forcing black to either one of these 2 squares, right? So let's do that. Oh, he has that move. Alright, alright, alright. Here then. Let's go. Let's go here. Let's go here, and then mate. Yay. That was a terrible attempt. Okay, so now there's mate in 5 as well. Check. Check. Alright, mate. We made that one. Alright, 2 more. Now this is just a queen mate, and this is a mate in 6. So 1. King goes over. 2. Let's say the king goes here. 3. 4. 5, 6, 7. Alright, that's not good. But okay. Gonna do this anyways. Check. This is the easiest way to force a mate, I would have to say. Even though it took one move more, I find that that is the easiest way to actually deal with the mate idea. Let's go here, and let's go here. We can actually check him, and if he goes here, then we just wait. Alright, so he goes there instead. Let's go. Now we simply give a check. And here, if we go there immediately, we have a mate in 2. I mean 1, not 2, but 3. Mate, but and if we go here, 1, 2, 3. So let's do it the fast way. Let's just do that. Alright. So now we practice some easy mates, alright? So right now we should try something more difficult. And there are a lot of things here on Lichess. And one thing I really can't stress enough is to know your pawn endgames and to reach a key square. And that's why we are going to go through some of these as well. So notice that Lichess actually suggests that you should come to one of these squares, then you are winning. Let's just go here, here. So having the opposition is really important in these endgames. And what I'm doing right now is basically forcing the king away so that I can manage to bring my pawn to the end and get a queen. And again, you see these squares. These are the important ones. So we can go here or here, it doesn't really matter. But if we go to a3, we might not be able to win because the king then gets here and he gets the opposition. We can't get in front of our pawn, and that's the whole idea of winning pawn endgames. In most of the situations, you need your king in front of your pawn to actually get it to promote, and you need to have the opposition to force the black king or your opponent's king away so that you can guide your pawn. So now if I were to step here, he might go to c7, and then it looks like black has the opposition, right? But then I have a pawn push, I have a tempi, and that is crucial because then I'm forcing him away again. So he goes there, that's fine. Now he's going to try some naughty business, but we're not going to fall for the computer's tricks. Alright? Alright. So again, we are going to go here. He tries to be a really funny guy. So let's push. And again, if we push, he can go here. And if we push again, then he will go back to c8. And I've gone over these in the past. And if you're not familiar with the opposition and bringing your pawn home to victory, then You should definitely watch these right now, because now we have the opposition forcing the king to either side. It doesn't matter which way the king goes, we just simply step to the other side. Now our pawn is ready to promote. Alright, so here it actually doesn't matter that much, but we are going to b6 to see the opposition again. Here we go, and we're forcing black away. So now you see that our king can't really go anywhere inside and in front of our pawn, but in fact with us pushing the pawn, we're forcing black away, and now we guard the promotion square. Yay! So if we push right now immediately, we will actually get a stalemate here. And this is a common theme. If you're low on time, this might happen in an online chess game. You just push because, or you have maybe pre-moved because you don't think that black is going to survive, but in fact you have to know about this little trick. Going here is the only way to continue the promotion. Alright, so again, if we go to f6, black's going to go to h8, and if we then go here, he's simply going to drop back, and that is a draw. And if we go here, black king goes here, he goes here, he can go up, then we give a check. But what about if king here and king goes to f8? Then we push, then the king goes back, then we push again. So does it matter? Yes, it does matter. If we go here now and the king goes to h7 instead, what do we do then? If we push, the king can come over here or here to h8 or g8. So let's look at king back to g8 first. Well, then we could actually just push, right? Because then the king would have to go to h7. But what if king to h8? If we then push, well, he has king to g8 and we can't force him away, and after king to g6 it's stalemate again. So if we go here, king h7, check, king goes to h8, and we simply go here to f7, well, then that's stalemate, the same thing that happened in the previous one. So be careful about this. Know your endgame. So this is the only way to actually win it. King to h6. Alright. Okay, so black probably just simply went from the corner or something to get at this pawn. So now we need to get to promote the pawn, and we support it by getting the king closer to the pawn, and now queening. Alright, so if we push now, he can actually come closer, but then we could just push, right? So does it really matter? Push, king goes here, pawn goes here. Well, no. So you don't have to get to g7. It depends on where the king is, pretty much. But now we're going to learn that we have a stalemate. So if you're down a pawn and you end up having a rook pawn versus your own king, then you need to know about keeping inside of the corner. Just keep to these squares and you'll be safe. So now the black king just simply gives up the pawn, but there's no way for him to actually win that. That's going to be a draw no matter what. And yet again, I've gone through this in an earlier video. Okay, so if we went straight on, black would get the opposition and we wouldn't gain anything. And now again, it's important we don't go to c4, because if the king steps here, then we have to move away and black has the opposition. So we go here and then gain the opposition, forcing black to react to our king, right? Let's push. King over, and we support our pawn. Good, good, good. All right, so that was key squares in the endgames. So let's go and look at one more thing. And I'm not exactly sure what we should look at. Opposition is really great, and we looked at it by looking at the key squares, but alright. Let's look at discovered attacks. Actually, the skewer looks really... Yes, let's look at the skewer. Because it's a common tactic that if you can force a more powerful piece to have to move, or the king isn't really that powerful, but then you can actually force the win of material. It's the opposite of a pin, actually, the skewer, because in a pin your opponent doesn't want to move or can't move because it's illegal because of a check, or he doesn't want to lose the material that is placed behind the pinned piece or pawn, whatever. But with the skewer, he doesn't have a choice, he has to make a move. So in this case, for instance, if we play rook to d2, he doesn't really want to move this piece, because then we take the rook, and up for rook takes, queen takes, and we win a rook. But he really doesn't have much of a choice, because, okay, as you can see, black king surrounds, or not surrounds, but surrenders. And we just take that with our bishop. But knowing the skewer is really, really important. So right now, what can we play? Do we have any skewers here? Well, we might have one at least. If we look at bishop to c6, the knight can't really capture on f5 then, can it? No. But obviously that's not what we want. We want to win material, not just trade pieces with these moves. But can you see another way of dealing with this diagonal in which I really want a piece on? How can we win material by force here? I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to pause the video, and if you can find the answer, well, then you know you're not a bad chess player. And if you can't find it, well, you're a bad chess player. That's just the way it is. Alright, so what's the move? What's the move? It is rook captures d4, e4. Obviously the queen has to capture back. Otherwise, he would just give away a bishop for free. But in this case, the bishop to c6 is actually giving away his bishop for free anyway, so it doesn't really matter, because I gave my rook for his bishop, and now he had to give away his rook because he didn't want to lose his queen. So it didn't really matter that much. Okay, so in this case, we actually do have a force skewer here, checking the white king and picking up the queen. So let's do that. Yay! Okay. So what about this one? This is a more difficult one, but it is an understandable tactic. So in this position you have to try to give away material to win material. And the theme, of course, is the skewer. Alright, so what should white play here? Pause the video. Alright. The move is bishop to e5 check, forcing the king to capture, because otherwise we would just pick up the queen, right? But now we have this move, queen to c3 check, in which the black king can't really go near the black queen to defend her. So that means we can just take the queen. Okay, so what do we do now? Well, is there some way of forcing something here. Can we force a trade and the win of a pawn, at least? And the answer is yes. It's a bit more difficult because we're not winning as much material as we would like. But after queen captures f7 check, obviously the queen can come in between, but then we simply take it. And after king takes, we take here, so that wouldn't be a fair deal for black. Obviously he will capture our queen. And then we have rook to a7 check, and since there's two squares in between the king and the queen, we can safely capture back without black ever capturing our rook, at least at the next move. Alright, so two more to go. So what are we going to do here? The theme is still a skewer. So how do we proceed? Well, I do not know. That's embarrassing. I'm looking at checks here. The king kind of has to stay somewhere around here. If the king goes here, then there's obviously mate in two. Either queen captures g6 and king h8, or king f8. If king h8, then knight here is mate. If king f8, then queen to f7 is mate. So he can't do that, so after queen to h6 check, he has only one other square, and that is king to e7. And how do we go from there? What do we do after that? That's the question, isn't it? After king to e7, we have to force the king onto the d6 square somehow. So now after these moves, we can play queen to g7 check. The king could go over to d8. Then what do we play? Well, then we check here. Check on f6. Because then he doesn't have a lot of choices. He can go here. King to c7. I thought I had this, but I don't. Okay. Because the bishop is guarding that square. Annoying. Check. So queen g7 check. After king here, what do we play then? Do we play something like this move instead? Well then, if king moves over, then we have this check, picking up the queen. That's a discovered check. And after this move, here check, and bishop here, then we have this check. So I'm feeling kind of good about this. But obviously the theme is a skewer. That means that we're going to win the queen by going through the diagonal, skewering the king to the queen. Alright. So this is a really nice tactic, and this is the final one. This is a study, as you can see down below there. It's a study by Henry Ringe from page 217 of the July 1903 Deutsche Schachzeitung. And white to move and win by force, and it looks really difficult, but this is a really known study. It's a very old and known study. So let's look at the options here. We need to get the queen onto this right here, or onto the light squares, let's say somewhere around here, so that we can bring our bishop either here on this diagonal or this diagonal, or do something else. So the first thing we can notice is after rook to a8, the queen has to move. If it takes the rook, after rook to a8. If it takes the rook, then we have bishop to f3 check, winning the queen. And we're staying a bishop ahead, and it shouldn't be a big task to win this. We should be able to pick off this pawn and these two, and after that it's simply just a matter of knowing your endgame, right? You can even give away your bishop for these two pawns, let's say. So, after this move, he can't take it, and he can't stay on these squares. So what if he goes here? Well, then we take it. What if he goes here? Well, then we have this check. What if he goes here? Well, then we have bishop to f3. What if he goes here? Well, then we have rook to c8 check, skewering the queen, king to the queen. And what if the queen goes all the way down here? That is a good question, isn't it? Well, it turns out that we can then take here on a4. The queen has nowhere to go. The queen has absolutely nowhere to go. Because after this, the queen has to go back, and then we simply repeat. But then the queen can't go back to a2. And the queen can't go here because our rook would guard the c4 square. So where does the queen go after that? Well, queen h7, only move, you could say. But then we have bishop g6. Such an amazing move. Bishop g6 just takes away all the squares from the queen, so queen has to capture on g6. And then we have rook to a6. Check. Okay, so Stockfish clearly doesn't want to give away too much material, so Stockfish gives it away for a rook instead of for a bishop. So we end up with a bishop and not a rook. But the study goes like this at least. Queen goes up, bishop here, queen takes, and rook here. But obviously Stockfish wants to do its own thing. So now let's go to the practice menu. Weren't I? Were I there? I thought I actually was on the chess basics thing here. But probably not. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna go back to practice then and do one more thing. Alright. So 7th rank rook pawn versus a queen. Sounds interesting, and I've done it already. The problem is that Lee just gives too much information now to actually try to do it ourselves. I find that kind of annoying somehow. I understand that if they try to explain it, but these practices should actually have just a clear-cut way of dealing with it. That is play. Alright. So knight and bishop mate. I like that one. That is probably a bit too difficult right now, and there are a lot of videos on those mates. I'm not particularly good with it, so I will have to say go visit another YouTube video to watch that. Although it would be fun to actually go through them. Let's do it. But yet again, you can see there's so much information here. We're gonna go here though. But now we're kind of getting we're getting the information that we want without having to play or think for ourselves. And again, but just getting the opposition, and then we try to bring our king and knight closer, forcing the black king to be restricted. And since we have a light squared bishop here, we need to force the black king into another one of these corners, either a8 or h1. So let's go here. Now we make a waiting move, forcing black over, king to g6, and now we're forcing him again. The black king can no longer go there. And right now you see a good way of dealing with it is basically showing that the knight on the light square controls all the dark squares. So yeah, in the previous chapter black replied to knight f7 check with king h7. Here black replies king g8 instead. Based on what we have learned so far, what move should white now play? Alright, so now white should play this move. Yeah, so simply forcing the king to a light squared corner when you have a light squared bishop, or dark squared corner if you have a dark squared bishop. That's basically the main thing. But I don't like the fact that these have so many arrows. You know what to play without having to think. But yeah, you can't really see what they're writing. Okay. Anyways, kind of fun though. Kind of fun. But knowing these endgames are actually really crucial, and I do not know them properly. I wish I did. As you can see here right now, we're restricting black's king as much as possible, and now this knight is going to go to this square. Okay, that square works as well. Just keeping the king away from e7 actually. It's really tough to see how they coordinate together, the bishop and the knight, but they really do operate perfectly if you know how to do that. I wish I did know how to do that. I played this several times against Fritz 13, I think the program was called, and I got so good at it that I could actually manage to mate him no matter what, but that was kind of 3 or 4 years ago, and I've never dealt with that position ever again until I think 3 or 4 months ago, when a viewer of my stream actually came up to me and said, "Hey, can you show us bishop and knight mate?" And I was like, yeah, how do I actually do those? And I tried to work it out with my computer, and it was really difficult to get into that again, so I just simply stayed off it. But alright. At least forcing the king to a corner of the same color as the bishop. That's the idea. Alright. Thank you so much for watching. We're gonna end it here before I screw up something, or before this video takes too much time. But hope you guys enjoyed, and feel free to share this video, feel free to comment on it, feel free to subscribe, feel free to do whatever you like with it, except putting my face inside another video. All rights reserved. I don't know. I don't care actually. Alright, have a good one guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.